Today I'm here to bear my ugly bits. About 4 years ago, I was hidden inside a body inflamed, covered in red, itchy, flaky, angry psoriasis. For those of you who aren't familiar, psoriasis is one of the most common autoimmune skin conditions. The National Psoriasis Foundation estimates that over 7.5 million individuals in the United States alone are affected by it. For me, psoriasis started out as a spot on my arm when I was 22. I can remember it was just right here. But that spot, it was just one symptom of the mental torture, the self-abuse, and the emotional suffering that I had put myself through for most of my life. When I was 18, my self-loathing turned my first cigarette into a 2-pack-a-day habit, and my deep belief that I could never be liked for just being me fueled a drinking spree that blacked out 7 years of my life. So when I was diagnosed with psoriasis and told that there was no cure, it was just an affirmation to me of all those lies that I had always told myself. That I wasn't pretty enough, smart enough, healthy enough, not good enough. Just one more thing to add to that long list of what's wrong with me. And I used my condition to spiral downward. I wallowed in self-hate, depression, to the point where about a year after my diagnosis, psoriasis had completely taken over. I mean, I couldn't run my finger over a single area in my body without catching on an itchy, painful rash. And along that descent, I gained upward of 100 pounds. I completely lost myself. For years, psoriasis, self-hate, addiction, these were the ugly bits that dictated my reality. And the more I tried to hide them, the more that I tried to ignore them, the worse that they got. I allowed them to keep me so low that I wasn't really living. We all have something that we don't want to accept about ourselves. We got some old gunk that we're just lugging around, what I like to call the ugly bits. You know what I'm talking about? It's that stuff that just makes us cringe, stuff we can't stand about ourselves. It's that personality dirt we would rather just let us sweep that under the rug. Shit, how about we light it on fire? So we don't want any chance of recovery here. What are your ugly bits? What has you feeling like you may not be good enough? Let me guess. Your pinky toe is so small, it's weird. The rogue mole. Can't stand it. This is too big. That's too small. What is it for you? Because those ugly bits, those things we're all thinking about right now, guaranteed, they're holding us back. They're keeping us at arm's length from our dreams, encouraging us to forget who we really are. Because every time that we put ourselves down, we relinquish our ability, we doubt our capabilities, we let the ugly bits rule our lives. I propose that learning to love our ugly bits is the key to letting go of what's holding us back so we can live extraordinary lives. Now, doing that is by no means easy. When I was at my absolute unhealthiest, I worked at Whole Foods in the juice bar, of all places. The skin on my hands was peeling off. And I had gained so much weight that I stopped looking in mirrors. And when the fit, sexy, healthy Whole Foodians would come to get their juice, I couldn't even look them in the eye because I was so ashamed of how I was. And most nights I would stand over a big industrial-sized trash can and I would stuff my face with pizza that was going to be thrown away, thinking to myself, I will never be beautiful like them. I will never be healthy like normal people. Have you ever missed out on something because you thought that it didn't apply to you? I'm confident that you can let go of what's holding you back. You can change it by making your flaws your friends. And that takes getting a little real with the parts of ourselves that just aren't so pretty on the surface. The day that I walked out of the dermatologist's office with a red box under my arm, tears streaming down my face, I knew that I had to change. This was where I was supposed to deposit my needles after injecting my daily treatment. And even though I had poisoned my own body for so long, it just didn't make sense to me. And I can't even tell you why I felt this way at the time, but I knew that the change had to come from here. I knew that I had to heal from the inside out. And I was done. After years of suffering, I was done ignoring the thing that I didn't want to look at, my own ugly bits. And I made one of the hardest decisions that I've ever had to make. I chose a natural path, self-loving foods, and we're talking major, lifestyle cleansing to mend my gut and heal my life. After about 6 months of a committed whole foods plant-strong practice, during which there are immense challenges every single day, I watched the majority of the skin on my body completely regenerate. And in its place, new skin. The state of my life utterly transformed. I didn't do this with willpower. I did this through the realization that my character flaws were just roadblocks, separating me from a life worth living. There are 3 reasons why I believe that when we're no longer bound by our insecurities, our lives become exponentially better. 1, taking the hard look gives us the clarity we need to move forward. I struggled for 8 years to get my undergraduate degree. Not too uncommon these days. But I was that student at the end of each semester, having the conversation with the professor. It goes something like this, you may be familiar with it. Well, I know I've missed more classes here than I've attended, and I have no idea what we've covered, but will you pass me, please? Needless to say, I took a lot of summer school. But it's by no accident that when I decided to confront my addictions and embrace my ugly bits, even though I really didn't want to, I took on more classes than I even thought possible. I got straight A's, and I graduated 8 months later. For so many of us, taking that hard look is the catalyst for lasting change. In his memoir, Finding Ultra, Rich Roll describes himself almost 40 and winded, halfway up a flight of stairs. With a family history of heart attacks and the realization that he couldn't even conquer the stairs in his own home, Rich decided to do something about that 50 extra pounds that had kept him from even having enough energy to play with his kids. Rich has made a staggering transformation from a stressed out, overweight attorney to a full-time wellness advocate and ultra-endurance athlete. He writes, he speaks, he podcasts, and he performs at physical levels that are downright astounding. Rich was featured in Men's Health as one of the world's 25 fittest men, and he's also gotten top placements in 2 Ultraman World Championships. And we're talking 3-day, 320-mile double Ironman distance triathlons. He's even known for completing the Epic 5, which is 5 Ironmans on the 5 Hawaiian Islands, and he completed that in under a week. Now, I bet not even Rich could have imagined that a shortcoming, an ugly bit that could have just as easily been ignored, could lead to that. 2, taking responsibility gives us the freedom to start over. I stayed stuck in self-denial for a long time before I reached that breaking point. For years, I refused to take any responsibility for the role that I played in my own condition. I mean, the autoimmune response that visibly showed up as psoriasis, it couldn't have had anything to do with my alcohol-guzzling, cigarette-sucking, fast food lifestyle, right? When I took ownership of all the decisions that had created pain and chaos in my life, I was able to own the progress. Bikram Choudhury, founder of the popular hot yoga, once said, "It is never too late. You're never too bad. You're never too sick. You're never too old to start from scratch once again, to be born once again." When my skin was at its worst, I would stand in the shower and I would scratch until blood cascaded down my legs in waterfalls. It got worse before it got better. And then I started to see patches of brand new skin. Simple, miraculous proof that we can come back from damn near anything if we acknowledge our part in the process. 3, hiding our ugly bits cuts us off from life's opportunities. I used to dread going out in public. I covered myself from head to toe, terrified that someone would see the spots on my face, the flakes in my hair, or the irritated rashes that crept down the back of my neck. Because those were the only parts of me that I wasn't able to hide. To me, the fiery rash that swallowed up my body, it was just a humiliating display to the world of how absolutely shitty I felt about myself inside. During that time, I never joined a college club, I never went to the beach. I actively dodged relationships of all kinds because I didn't think that I was worth knowing. I didn't even want to know myself then. These were constant, countless opportunities that were lost because I decided that hiding was safer. Have you ever stopped yourself from experiencing something great and rationalized it by telling yourself that you weren't good enough? Example, skipping a networking event because you felt fat. Not raising your hand to ask that burning question because you felt stupid. Avoiding the conversation because you perceived that other person to somehow be better than you. I had a teacher that once explained that these kind of compromises are actually lies, ways that we cover up the true expression of ourselves. I never thought about it like that. She said, by making compromises, we do not live up to our true potential. We do not manifest our true purpose. Being completely honest with ourselves, that means laying it all out there. Not the easiest thing to do at times, but you'd be surprised at how people actually love you more for your flaws. Because guess what, everybody? They have them too. Doors open when people see that you're willing to be honest, and transparency trumps secrecy. Now I'm going to tell you all a story about the one element that I believe ties all this together, and that's unconditional love. In one of my darker moments, I was laying on the bed in my room, which was about the size of a sardine can. It was so small, we had to press our butts up against the wall and slide. True. and my skin was so bad. It was flaking off in sheets, and it lined the baseboards in piles. There were styrofoam takeout boxes stacked 2 feet high. And I looked at my boyfriend at the time, still to this day, such an angel in my life. And I said, how can you love me? How can you love me like this? How can you look past it? He looked straight into my soul, and he said, I can't look past something I can't see. When I had that kind of love for myself, I could make the changes that my life so desperately needed, and it's kept me going. It is my deep hope that all of you can come to love all of yourselves, even the ugly bits, so you can live the fullest life possible.